Hello, welcome to the show. My name is Will, and today I've got Alec with me. Say hello, Alec.
Hello, Alec.
Oh, funny guy. So today we're going to have a look at Warhammer Preview 3, Revenge of the Preview, and all the new stuff they showed off yesterday.
Yes, lots of exciting new shiny things.
Yes, I want to buy most of it. I'll say that now.
There's a couple of very exciting things in there for me personally. Let's get into it.
Yes. So first of all, we've got the Sons of Behemat, which they actually teased just as a one-liner back in the Zote video, I think in January. Was that from the LVO releases?
It might have been. Your memory's clearly better than mine. Not being particularly familiar with Sigmar's lore or indeed Fantasy Battle, I completely missed the reference.
I'd only heard about it in passing, and then I went and Googled it and figured out what it was and thought, right, that's definitely coming down the pipework then.
What has been delivered to us through the pipeline is effectively Imperial Knights for Sigmar in the form of the Mega Gargants.
Fleshy Imperial Knights.
Oh, that sounds horrible. Interesting no conversion, though.
Yeah, it's a cool army. You were saying that they're available for all armies, supposedly? In some form or other?
So like Imperial Knights, you can take these as whatever the equivalent of an allied force is in Sigmar, and so any army can take these, or you can in fact field an army entirely of Gargants. So it's a single kit that builds these three variants. There's, I believe, the one on screen now with the net is the Kraken Eater.
Yep.
There's I believe the one with the hood is called a Gatebreaker, and I cannot for the life of me remember what the third one is called. But it's a single kit that builds all these variants, which is incredibly impressive when you look at all of the detail and the different poses for them.
I think I'm going to call this one Sir, to be honest.
I think he might appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yes, they are very impressive. They're absolutely loaded with incredible detail. They're very nice paint jobs as well. I particularly like the wrinkly scabbed knee of the fellow to the left.
Oh yes, yeah.
That's a very nice bit of work there.
Yes, they're seriously impressive. I like the details. They've got bits. So he's got a corn sort of I don't know, banner or bit of metalwork there.
I believe that it looks a bit like a shield almost, but I can't imagine Khorne warriors holding shields. That seems a bit wussy.
No, I can see that now. Actually, it's like a Warrior of Chaos shield, isn't it? Like a rank and file. I can think the heavily armored troops.
Yes,
I can see that.
Yeah,
that looks like what are the Sky Dwarves shields?
Caradron Overlords.
That's the one.
I don't really know if they have shields, but yes, it certainly has that kind of look about it.
There's another shield there with a sun and a moon emblem on it. I'm not too sure what
that would be a Stormcast, I'd imagine.
Right.
Looks more like their thing. I think my personal favourite though is the Kraken Eater, the fellow who clearly lives along the shoreline. He's got a bit of tentacle there to munch on as Fancy takes him. I think definitely my favourite thing about him is his massive club, which is just logs and cannons and all sorts of just detritus that have all been strapped together.
I think there's a nice. Here he is.
Yes, this one. He's very much my favourite.
Full screen's not having it. That's all you get, unfortunately. But he's got the prow of a ship on his back, which is pretty cool. Yes,
that's an interesting detail. He's made himself a nice hood, and he's got himself there familiar with a boat hook in his mouth. Just hang him up there.
Please kill me.
Whispers him to sleep at night.
Yeah, very cool. There is a little size comparison they put up, which was cool, because you can still play the older, or they call them Gargants now, don't they? Gargant models.
Yes, so these guys are supposedly comparative to giants, as giants are comparative to normal monsters. I'd say normal men, but I think that would be we're getting into sort of Titan territory at that point.
Yeah, the men would be very small compared to these, wouldn't they?
Yes, indeed.
All right, so moving on, we've got a little release for Blackstone Fortress.
Yes, a new expansion.
a game which I've had since the very start, and I've shamefully never tried.
Yes, I very much like to try and play it, but it's finding the time and also having the kit, which I don't have. So Blackstone Fortress Ascension, it's another expansion. It adds some more difficulty. It adds some new enemies to fight in the form of the Spindle Guardians.
Guardian drones.
Guardian drones, that was it. Yes, the bigger brother of the Spindle drone from the original release. These things, they said on stream, stand eye to eye with a dreadnought, roughly. Give you a sense of the scale.
Yeah, you can sort of see in this image here. You got the characters that are sort of human sized. The Spindle drones are a little smaller, and they're sort of twice the height. So I'd say it's a good Redemptor dreadnought height, at least.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, they're very cool. They're very other, aren't they? They're not sort of influenced too much by any of the other 40k forces.
No, they are very different from everything else we know in 40k, and I'm totally okay with that, because just look at them. They are fantastic. They're creepy and they're weird. They're
sort of a little bit War of the Worlds-esque, and that sort of tripod.
Yes, they are actually, aren't they? I wonder if that played a part in their design.
It could well have done. I mean, it's a very old design now. Because how old is War of the Worlds? Is it like 70s or 60s or something? It's like
it's older than that. I thought it did. I really don't remember actually.
It's well, whatever. It's as a concept that's been around for a long time.
Yes, indeed.
They're very nice. I don't think I'll pick this one up personally. Although it'd be good to paint, wouldn't it? It'd be good as a painting project.
Yes, they'd be lovely painters' pieces. But yes, not owning the base game, there's no reason for me to pick it up beyond I want to paint the creepy robot monsters.
Well, I've got a handful of Spindle drones unpainted. I could send you those if you want a painting project, and maybe you'll pick up one of these down the road if it goes well.
I will certainly consider it. I will say, like if you scroll down just a bit more to the last picture.
Yeah.
I know it's been memed to death, but the idea of "don't talk to me or my son ever again" is perfectly encapsulated by that pair on the right there.
Yeah, I can see that. Very good. So moving on, we've got another warband for Warcry. These guys,
Daughters of Cain as a warband.
Yeah, the Cainite Shadow Stalkers are the spies of Marathi. They call them. They're a very characterful bunch. Which I like. I wish more characters would come out with this level of detail.
Yes, indeed. So, keen-eyed observers will note from the lady with the staff that we just scrolled past. That is a rumor engine post that's been up in the air for quite some time. That little crescent moon look.
Yep.
Now here's a much nicer shot of it.
Yeah, it's cool.
I really like the way that sort of her cloak goes down, and then she appears to be sort of pulling shadows out of it with her staff, and also off the brooch, it goes over one shoulder, but in the other, it just sort of fades off into smoke. It's a very different, very interesting design.
Literally weaving the shadows around themselves.
Yes, which I imagine is sort of what the Daughters of Cain are largely about. Again, not being particularly familiar with Sigmar, I can't really speak to that, but it certainly makes for some damn cool models, like this fellow who's wreathing shadows out of his own cloak, and hiding behind it.
It's a really nice effect, because I didn't spot this first of all. You pointed this out to me. It goes from the sort of blue and white edge highlight on the cloaks, and then transitions into this purpley sort of ethereal
smoky
look.
effect.
Yeah,
but also gives us sort of the impression of the snake body that is very different, very definitely a Daughters of Cain type look. See Marathi herself and all the various Medusae critters that they have.
Yes, yeah, you can see that the cloak here. It's good. I like them. The double hand crossbows I would question as a battlefield
as a tactical choice.
Yeah. How does he reload those? Does he throw one up in the air and reload one and then catch the first one? Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, but they look cool.
He looks really cool for the first two shots, and then he just drops them because it's silly.
Yeah, but then you're into knife work anyway.
Cool. So moving on to another Age of Sigmar release, and we've got Sinari Cathalar, I want to say.
Yes, a character model for the Lumineth, the upcoming Lumineth release. Good lord, she's gorgeous, isn't she?
Yeah, I really like the paint job that they've done on the veil, on the face.
Yes, that's a very impressive bit of work. I'd love to try that out myself, but I have a realistic expectation of my ability to replicate it. But as a piece of design work, that is excellent, and then it's complemented by an absolutely spot-on paint job.
It's one of those, I can imagine when they were sculpting it, maybe they showed this to their boss and they said, why have you drawn lines over the face? Or why have you sculpted lines over the face? And you're like, just wait till it's painted.
Yep.
Yeah, it looks very nice. And I love all this sort of ethereal, is it smoke?
I imagine it is smoke, yes.
Coming out of this large chalice.
They were saying on stream that one of the things that defines the Lumineth is they're a bit Vulcan, where they sort of suppress their emotions, but then using magic they can pass them around to store them away magically, or on the battlefield they can pass them around. And I believe they said you could take, is it break checks, the equivalent of a morale check in Sigmar. If you have a unit that has to take one of these checks near this model, she can mean that you can pass it off to nearby enemy units instead.
Okay, that's interesting.
Which is a very, very interesting prospect, tactically speaking. So, well, you've damaged my morale, so I'm going to make your guys run away instead.
Yeah, that's really cool. Maybe unwise to be barefoot on the battlefield. That's the only thing I'd say about it, but I like the rest of that model.
Yes, I have to say I've really liked what I've seen of the Lumineth, and I am considering getting some just to paint, because I really like the nice bright colours and the big strange funny hats that they're all wearing.
And all the cow imagery, I think, is amazing.
I do love the kind of the cow mountain monster that they revealed a couple of it was either the last one or the first one, I can't remember which, but yes, I very much enjoyed the they're a bit out there, but also at the same time they're quite mystical and all of it quite weird, and they, like I said, nice bright vibrant colours.
Yeah, they still fit that sort of mystical, maybe ethereal elf type vibe, whilst also being unique. A bit like the Idoneth Deepkin.
Yes, I liked them just because they were so very weird.
Yeah, they're so different and out there, but definitely still elves in the process.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, it's very good. I very much like the hollow suit of armor character that was released right at the start.
I liked him as well. He was very interesting.
I've got visions of doing a sort of Necron Catan out of that, like a hollow suit of armor, maybe with sort of
that would be an interesting one. Yes,
eldritch green energy flowing through it, Scarab stitching his armor panels together, that sort of thing. That might be a project I attempt at some point.
Yeah, it's quite a unique take on the things.
So moving on then, we've got a little game that we don't really dabble with ourselves, and that's Blood Bowl.
Yes, I have to say, I mean, it's a new team in the form of Snotlings, but yes, Blood Bowl not my thing, I'm afraid. So I don't really have anything interesting or insightful to add to it, other than what was said on stream was that if Halflings are playing Blood Bowl on hard, Snotlings are playing them on extremely hard.
Yeah, they've put up here as well on very hard mode. It's cool. I like how characterful they are. If I was ever to do like an Orc Stomper conversion or something and have Snotlings and Grots all over it, I might pick up some of these as character pieces. But yeah, I'll skip that one, I think.
Indeed,
they are nice models.
Yeah. Yes, they are nice. They're nice models. They're nicely painted. They're nicely detailed. Like there's a fellow wearing a sock for a hat, and then there's another one wearing a sock. And
what, is he wearing a sock in his entirety? There's the guy with the sock on his head. Where's the?
If you go,
yes, yeah.
Yep, there he is. He's wearing the other sock.
Amazing.
Then there's the fellow on the stilts. They're very funny. They're very characterful, and if you're into Blood Bowl, I hope they make you laugh. They did. I believe they said that it's one box with a full team, and it's all plastic and includes the this pump wagon, I believe they described it as.
Yeah, we kind of expect the plastic these days, don't we? I think gone are the days of metal replaced by the resin that shall not be named.
Yes, I'm very glad to see that we haven't had some of that in quite a while. Although I believe the Black Library special models, Eisenhorn was certainly a resin, and I believe the Custodian and the Sister of Silence were also resin.
Oh, that's a good point. I was about to say I don't think we've had any new models in resin since they sort of replaced the old lines, but
yes,
no, I think you're right. Yeah,
I believe. Well, I know Eisenhorn is definitely resin because I've got him lying around here somewhere in my pile of shame.
Yep.
But I would imagine then that if he was resin, then the was it the Lady Commissar came after, and then there was the Custodian and the Sister. I would imagine that they would be all resin.
Well, I can kind of expect those to come out of Forge World as resin because obviously they're still on resin.
But I don't believe they were. I don't believe they're Forge World resin either. I think they are Finecast resin.
All right. Oh, that's interesting.
I imagine that sort of the one shot or the very limited run ones would probably be Finecast because they're easier to produce large numbers of it at short notice, and then you don't need the plastic mold after that. So it's maybe not worth the investment in a plastic mold for something like that.
No, it's very interesting. I hadn't thought about that.
Yes, I'd completely forgotten until literally just this moment.
So speaking of resin characters,
indeed,
they've called him the original Loyalist. I don't know if he's quite the original Loyalist because I've got a bit of a soft spot for Loken.
Everybody loves Loken.
Loken's amazing. But this is Sol Tarvitz from the Emperor's Children.
And what a sexy boy he is. Look at him. Marvel.
I've got a bit of a soft spot for this model at the moment because I'm listening to book 3 of the Horus Heresy, the audiobooks. And while this isn't quite the image I had of Sol in my mind, it's a damn fine model as this, and I'm definitely going to be picking this up, I think.
Yes, he is an excellent sculpt. He's even got a nice face.
Yes, which is saying something. There are a few butterfaces floating around, aren't they?
Yes, sometimes the faces don't get sculpted particularly well in the resin, which is unfortunate. But Mr. Tarvitz here is. I think it works.
Yeah, I like that they've given him his two-handed sword that he had in the battle, not the Coral City, because that's where he's going to. They're fighting the Sonic Psyker at the end of some battle. Anyway, he's got his signature two-handed sword there. Although I would question the grip. You know, he's got a large handle, but he's holding it base of the blade. I don't quite know what that's about. But
with great swords from the medieval era, sometimes you do have sort of a foregrip in front of the crossguard.
Oh, would you? Okay.
Yes.
I'll bow to your knowledge.
It is a thing I have seen. Though whether or not that is actually how that sword functions, I don't know. It looks more like not a cutlass. It's more like a saber kind of look.
Yeah.
But it does also appear to be double-edged.
It's supposed to be in the books anyway. It's supposed to be a two-handed greatsword. It's sort of sharp on both sides. It's not described in enough detail, so we wouldn't have known if it had notches cut out or it's got that weird detail at the end. I think that's just a stylistic choice. But yeah, very nice model, and I'm definitely going to be getting that. I might have to get the Loken model as well, although it comes with Abaddon, and that's heretical. So yeah. All right, so moving on, we've got the big release of this set of releases, really, and that's the Psychic Awakening.
Certainly the one that stood out most to me.
So just flicking through here, you pointed out there are some characters in this video.
Yes, indeed.
So here we go.
Here we go. This is the one. So if you cast your mind back to 2 weeks ago when Preview 2 came out, they revealed the 20th anniversary of the Demonifuge graphic novel, and the release of the sister. I'm afraid I cannot remember her name, but the battle sister who is the Demonifuge and her Harlequin bodyguard, essentially. That that is them standing in the background behind our new Inquisitor for Ordosinus.
Who is called Draxus.
Draxus, yes.
Yeah.
Inquisitor Draxus.
Totally prepared for that.
Yep, definitely.
Yeah, it's cool. I think the story's coming to a bit of a head now, isn't it? We've got the sort of narrator of some of the early videos in the Inquisitor sort of teaming up with these heroes that they've brought in.
Yes, we're getting close to the end game here, I think.
And then we've got the other release of Pariah, and that's is it Illuminator Ceres?
Illuminor Ceres.
Illuminor Ceres.
I believe it is Illuminor.
Illuminor, big shiny.
Yes, big shiny. He is a Cryptek who has a fine cast model at the moment, which I can tell you from experience is a right royal pain in the arse to put together.
Yep, but I've got the same experience with that one. It's I've got lots of slate chips on my bases to support the fine spindly legs.
Yes, the sort of like maybe 2 millimeter squared contact space he has
on 1 foot.
Yeah, that was not a nice model. This, on the other hand, is a very nice model. Just take a moment to drink it all in. Hot damn.
Do you need a minute? Do I need to mute you for a second?
Yes, I will. I need a second. I'll be back.
So while Alex sorted himself out, firstly I'll point out that this was a
rumor engine.
Rumor engine, that's the word. They released a little while back.
Yes, I've been umming and ahhing about what that stone ring could possibly have been, and now we know.
Yeah, you had some interesting thoughts about maybe it was a Mechanicum device.
Yes, the metal clasp that it was sat in, and the nature of the plug that was obviously on the bottom of it made me think, this is an AdMech device. It's obviously Necron Blackstone, but it's been taken by some tech priest, and they have made an anti-psychic device from it, just based on what I could see in the designs. We now know that to not be the case. However, it certainly is an anti-psychic device. It is called the Empiric Overcharger, and its function is anything within 9 inches of this model. Basically, when they roll take a warp check or a psychic check, they perils on any doubles instead of the traditional doubles on 1 or 6.
Which I think is very nice, and it's nice for Necrons to finally have another kind of psychic defense apart from the spider with the gloom prison.
Yes, yes, which I haven't looked up to check what it does, but I remember being severely underwhelmed by its performance.
Yeah, so that's good. So I think this guy's going to find a lot of inclusion in people's armies just for that alone.
And also just being a fantastically different and out there model.
Yeah, it's on a very large base as well. I mean, we don't get a comparison of this next to anything else, do we?
No, but looking at that, I'd imagine so the most recent Cryptek with a Canoptic Cloak is, I believe he's on it's either a 40 or it might even be a 50 mil base.
I think this is much bigger. This must be an 80 or...
No, an 80 would be the size of an Armiger Knight. That can't be much more than 60, especially when you consider the size of the fellow underneath him.
No, well, I think it might be more towards 80 because I want to say he's almost going to be Girly Man's level of height. He's a big dude. He's he's got his enlarged...
only on a 40 mil.
Is he?
Yep.
No,
I'm pretty sure it's only a 40 mil.
No, it can't be.
I'd have to go raid the box under my bed, but I'm fairly sure Gulliman is not as big as you think he is.
Okay. I'd be interested to see this compared to some other models then. Yeah,
it is quite difficult to get a sense of scale because he's clearly very tall.
Yeah. So there's one detail on this which is bugging me, and it's once I've pointed it out to you, I apologise for anybody watching that you might not be able to unsee this now. But he's zapping this guy, he's flaying his flesh off. Great. I accept all that. It's really nicely detailed, and he's clearly got a load of biomatter in his hand. He's manipulating it with gravity or whatever he's doing. Great. my question is, why is this second bloodstream from the dude sort of queuing, waiting for entrance into this little vortex?
Oh, it spoiled it now.
I can't quite let go of the fact that it's politely cute. You know, he's gone to the effort of shooting him. It's being drawn up towards his little gravity vortex, but he's not touching it. I don't get that. If it was me, I would have to just bend that ever so slightly, or just add a little bit of green stuff just so it was touching. It seems silly.
Yeah. From a model construction point of view, I can very much see why you would keep them separate, because it's just it's too many contact points, I think, and it makes it more fragile potentially.
But it's like if you compared it to maybe Nagash, and he has all these floating spirits around him. If one of those spirits was not connected to the rest of the swirling spirits, it would look bizarre.
Like, yes,
it's a bit like it's added on, like he's tacked on to the model. If you know what I mean, it's just a bit, a little bit weird.
I wonder if you could get around this rather than having to actually have it make contact. Could you trim it back a little bit so it's not that it's queuing, it's just that it more clearly hasn't got there yet.
Yeah, like maybe if this is something he's already working on, and then this blood spray only comes up to say here, he's like the second batch that he's preparing. But just looking at how close it's got, and then it's politely waiting for its turn in the vortex, it's just a little weird.
I was just going to say that he's firing what looks like a laser.
Mm-hmm.
Presumably he is gauze flaying this fellow. Yes, this image. I personally don't like the sort of the ramrod straight bolt of light that everything else is very nicely necron, and obviously that's a laser, but I think it makes its plainness and its perfection makes it stand out an awful lot more. So I think for me, I would dispense with that final rod, and I'd probably put in some bent brass rod and make it a bit more lightning like. Because to me, that's more how I envisage gauze flayers working. But then I've been spoiled by Dawn of War.
I was just going to say, I think, that's the video game's influence. But also the artwork shows the gauze weapons.
It's all sort of crackling green lightning and horrible eldritch energies. And here is a perfectly straight laser beam. And
like a laser scalpel.
Yes, in terms of what is happening to that fellow, a laser scalpel is not something that would cause that kind of effect, I think. No,
it should be more like an energy beam destroying his molecules rather than a laser scalpel poking him in the elbow. Wouldn't do that to him. It doesn't seem quite infitting, does it?
Yes, but then I think certainly I've thought in all the most recent Necron releases, they're moving away from the green plastic rod look. So
which I'm okay with. I'm not averse to
it was kind of funny in the early days, but actually they're very annoying to work with. Well, they can be annoying to work with. But yes, I could gush about this model all day, every day. It is. I'm not going to say perfect, because that only the Keeper of Secrets is perfect.
Ooh.
But this is a very excellent, very pleasant thing to look at, and it is the right replacement for the existing Illuminor Ceres model.
Yes, I don't think anybody would disagree with you there. He's definitely had a bit of a stature upgrade, and I'll definitely be getting one.
Absolutely.
Cool. So let's have a.
To,
oh, you want to go back to
Draxus.
The video? So we've got this little release here, Kyria
Draxus.
Ordo Xenos.
Indeed, Ordo Xenos. Bit of a radical, as indicated by the fact that she's using a dreaded Xenos weapon. Although one must question, why would you use a shuriken catapult?
Of all, if you're gonna go to that level of heresy, why would you pick a shuriken catapult as your weapon of choice? You know, fusion pistol, a necron gauss flare, a war scythe. Like, pick any other weapon, not a shuriken catapult.
Something that might actually have some kind of impact on the field.
And she even...
That said, it's a very nice model. She looks a bit like Tilda Swinton now that I look at her again.
I can't unsee that now, for God's sake. It is a nice model. The armor's very sort of fantasy-esque. I'm trying to think of another Inquisitor that has similar armor, but I don't think they're quite this level of...
I don't remember another Inquisitor who wears power armor, except potentially maybe Lord Inquisitor Kotias did back in the day.
Yeah.
His big shiny gold plate, he might have been in power armor. I really don't remember his rules.
He was in power armor or artificer armor of some kind. But yeah, this one just seems with the knee pads. Just it makes you think of like knightly plate armor, doesn't it?
It is very knightly plate armor, including the gorget and the tilting plate she's got going on.
Oh yes, yeah. It's channeling an Imperial Knight there.
Quite definitely.
And then she's got a little buddy in the form of Shang, the faithful Shang.
Yes, Shang, which is I believe they describe it as a wivrak or wivrak, sort of relating to wyverns and rack, I guess. But it looks like a sort of a little dragon eagle type thing.
Yeah.
Which is, to call back to Kotias again, actually very reminiscent of him and his two-headed gloved eagle.
Yeah. It's a cool model. In fact, it's almost exactly the same pose, isn't it? He had hammer down. Or was it behind him?
He was gripping the hammer just beneath the head, and the grip was up behind his back.
Yeah, so up.
But it's
that.
very similar pose, yes.
But very nice.
Which is not a bad thing. But yes, that's a very nice model and very interesting. It's nice to see the Inquisition back in some form on the tabletop.
Yeah, and not only that, sort of leading the narrative. She's the one that's been doing some of the voiceovers in some of the videos. Yes,
she was the narrator from the very first Psychic Awakening video. We see her standing in front of an open tome with the Eldar symbol of rebirth being written out in flames above it.
Yeah,
which is very cool. So it's nice to see a character we've sort of been introduced to and aware of actually make it into the game at last.
Yeah, so I hope the rest of the Inquisition get a bit of love off the back of this as well.
Yes, it would be nice.
So the Deathwatch and Harlequins got a sort of subpart entry into the Psychic Awakening series in the form of the White Dwarf entries.
Yes,
I mean, how do you feel about that?
I think that's a bit of it's a strange situation, especially when we're now confronted with a member of the Ordo Xenos and the Deathwatch being the militant arm of the Ordo Xenos. Back in the day when Demon Hunters first came out, that being now Grey Knights, there were talks that they were going to be witch hunter. There were Demon Hunters, Witch Hunters, and Alien Hunters. And Codex Witch Hunters was the 3rd edition version of Sisters of Battle, and then the Alien Hunters never turned up. But the Alien Hunters are actually the Deathwatch.
Yeah.
And I find it very strange that we have here an Inquisitor for the Ordo Xenos, and the Deathwatch are not here. Are not in this story to back them up. It's very. I find that very, very strange.
So I can sort of see it. They've probably just been left out, narratively speaking, as in the narrative was written just. It was ongoing, and they didn't think to include them.
Or maybe they just couldn't think of anything interesting to do with them.
Yeah.
So they have to update their rules. Because I believe the White Dwarf update is as simple as everything that the Space Marines have got through this process and through the Astartes Codex 2.0. That is their update in White Dwarf. So they're just being brought up on par with the rest of the Marine forces.
It's just a bit sad that they went to the effort of making them like a mainstream force. End of 7th, they were pretty good and pretty
they were
well
getting
supported.
a lot of love back then.
And then it feels like they've just been completely forgotten again. Just sort of like Harlequins have. They brought them in when I was going to say Aliquins. Allies were a big thing. They allied with Dark Eldar and Eldar and stuff. And now they just seem like they've been completely forgotten, and they're not much of an entity on their own anymore.
So Harlequins, I could almost understand. Well, I can understand why they've been left out, because it's a very small force with maybe at best 5 or 6 kits.
Yeah,
they don't have an awful lot going on, and the only way you could make them deserve their own story in something like the Psychic Awakening is to do a big line update, and I can't see them doing that personally.
No,
not saying they don't deserve it, but I don't know what you do with them, really.
No, it's weird. They could have easily included them here. I mean, I know the Harlequin here.
Yes, the bodyguard for the Demonifuge, who I'm afraid I cannot remember their names.
No, I'm hopeless with the names, but he's supposedly Kyganil.
Yes, that's it.
Is that right? Yeah. Ephrael Stern is the Demonifuge.
Would be the sister, yes.
But I believe the Harlequin is the last of his mask. So it kind of makes sense fluff-wise that he doesn't have any buddies with him. He's a bit of a...
But we're also dealing with a radical inquisitor for the Order Xenos, who we know has had dealings with the Eldar, and there is a Harlequin bodyguard in the background of that video. It feels like they could have been part of this, and okay, maybe you don't want to include too many races, because clearly we've got necrons. There's obviously sisters. There's Inquisitor Draxus, and on the other side we can see some Ultramarines. So presumably either specifically Ultramarines or Marines in general might be involved here.
Yeah. And
maybe adding in then Deathwatch and Harlequins on top might have made it a bit too messy. But you can certainly... Fighting Necrons is very much an Eldar thing to do.
Yes.
That's kind of why they exist.
That's true.
So I'd also imagine that's a very Harlequin thing to be involved in, aside from the eternal combat with Slaanesh. But it feels like a missed opportunity to tell just a very what do I want to say?
Yeah, they could have easily slotted them in some capacity, couldn't they?
Yes, they could have been there. They didn't necessarily have to be heavily involved in the story, but they could have had something, and then they could have had rules in this book as well.
Oh well, maybe in the next campaign series we'll get some love.
Yes, maybe next time.
So moving on, I think we've just got a couple of bits left to look at.
Yes. Speaking of sisters, news from Warhammer Storyforge. They've been talking up Hammer and Bolter, or I believe that's what it. Yes, Hammer and Bolter.
Yeah, Hammer and Bolter.
Series of is an animated series of sort of not interconnected stories, so sort of one shots in the same vein as Love, Death and Robots on Netflix, which is something that's been on my watch list for a while. I just haven't quite got around to finding the time for.
I can highly recommend that. Yeah, each one is a standalone story. You sort of get invested in the episode, but you don't feel like you have to sit and watch the whole series to make sense of it.
Which for something as complex and as convoluted as 40k lore can sometimes become, it actually feels like a breath of fresh air. You can sort of sit and watch a self-contained story, and by the end it's it's going to be all wrapped up, and then you're on to the next one.
Yeah,
which I like the idea of.
Yes, I think we've got to remember, because obviously we're Warhammer fans, we know what's going on in the background. These aren't entirely pitched to us. This is pitched to everybody. You know, if they're going to be making animations and especially live action stuff, these have to be absorbable by, I'll just say, the general public. You know, people that aren't up to date with the lore. They need to be
people who are not mega nerds or mega fans.
Yeah, which is cool. I love the Space Nun hat on Sister Agatha.
Yes, that's quite a look, isn't it? I quite like the almost Prince Zuko design look for Sister Elna. For those of you who've seen Avatar: Last Airbender, Prince Zuko with his big facial scar.
Yes, it is quite reminiscent of that, isn't it?
You can sort of. I feel like I can sort of see some design influence there.
He's got a very strong chin, I've just noticed. Crimson chin. Yeah, so I'm excited for this. We haven't got any dates or anything yet.
No, it's all sort of a work in progress. Everything to do with Storyforge, but I'm looking forward to what they come out with. I'm excited to see.
Keep looking at this nun's hat. I think, no, I don't want a helmet. I want to blind part of my peripheral vision with this hat. Sorry, go on.
I was just going to say it would be nice to see more stories in more formats. Reading Black Library is nice, but sometimes you want to watch something, and I think this is an excellent medium for it.
Yeah,
or an excellent method for providing those stories.
I think they're going to do well. I think the Warhammer community is pretty excited about all these different animated stuff and live action stuff coming down the pipeline.
Yeah, well, look how excited everybody got about Astartes, and there's only 5 episodes of that, and everyone lost their minds.
Yeah, it was pretty good. There were a load of fan theories floating around about what it was and is he actually working with Games Workshop and stuff. But yeah, it was well made, that's for sure.
Yes, I believe someone said, and it might not have been an official thing, so this might require heavy salt, but there was another animated series that's not Astartes, whose name now completely escapes me.
Yep.
It's not Angels of Death. That's the Games Workshop one, isn't it?
Yes.
That was the Sin City black and white, heavily stylized one.
Oh yeah, yep.
So I believe I'd heard that the person who did this other independent series is involved in some way in the production of Angels of Death.
Okay. It's interesting. I mean, yeah, so, I kind of hope they would reach out because they've clearly put in the effort to their own works. It'd be a good PR move for Games Workshop, if nothing else, to reach out and get them involved in their own works. Yeah, cool. So moving on, we've got a couple more characters here in the form of Sister Triana Palos, which I think is a brand new sculpt, and then the Terminator Librarian Varus. Is this an older model that they've redone? I can't.
No, this is the special model for attendees of Adepticon, which is obviously not going ahead anymore.
That was it, yeah.
Yes, so they are like they did with was it Sergeant or Lieutenant Amulius the other day. They are making these two available for their made to order program.
Limited run, yeah. Sort of pay for it now and we'll ship it when we can.
Yes, so these are available on Games Workshop now if you want to order them, and when production returns to some semblance of normality, they will make up your order and they will ship it out to you.
I think I'll be picking up the Sister of Battle. It's a very nice model. They've had some really nice character models come out.
They have had some excellent character models. She's it's a nice dynamic pose. It's dripping with detail. I think the callback to the Codex art, which you can see there,
yeah.
I think is excellent. I think they've captured that scene very well.
Yeah, the only thing which I think I've heard a couple of people say is the face isn't quite the same. I mean, the face is a good sculpt in its own right.
Yes, I agree. I think the face is perfectly fine. It's not necessarily the same face as in the artwork.
Yeah.
But I don't think to be honest, if you were firing a bolter, I don't think you'd be standing like that. I think the model captures how you would use a weapon like that far more accurately.
Yeah,
she's sort of turning her head away from the bolter and sort of looking at it out of the side of her eye in the artwork.
Yeah, I would question it if you want to go into that, because bolters have a hell of a kickback. You know, they sort of
probably want to be using your other hand as well.
Well,
although she is in power armor.
This is true. She does have an exoskeleton sort of powering it, but yeah, so a bolter is a hell of a weapon for your average human to use. That's why they're only special weapons for guardsmen. You know, your average guy could not hold on to a bolter. I think we've been spoiled by games like Dawn of War that depict them as machine guns, and they're not. They fire
they're
these
rocket
massive,
launchers, effectively.
Yeah, they're like handheld rocket launchers. They fire these massive shells. You can rapid fire them, but they use very large caliber bullets. Anyway, I think getting a bit off topic.
Yes.
So yeah, I'll be picking that up. I don't think I'll bother with the Terminator though. Personally,
I actually don't collect a Marines army, so I will be giving that one a miss, certainly.
Yeah, it's a Terminator. I mean, they're just not not that good at the moment, to put it bluntly. But I think that's all we've got for today's previews.
Yeah, so that's it for previews from today. They did say at the end of the stream that there would be another preview video coming in May, but I don't believe they put a date on it. It says early May there in the article.
Okay. Cool. So we'll await that with bated breath.
Yes, indeed. Look forward to what else they're going to come out with. Because I don't know if this is everything. If this is now everything they'd meant to show off for Adepticon, or if there is still more of that stuff come.
Yeah, I hope there's some more stuff. We don't know, because I've not been keeping up with the story. I've not read any of the plot of Psychic Awakening, so I don't know how much is left. But I'm interested to see what happens with the Spider and Engine War, and that's it, isn't it? Is this one next? Pariah.
I believe Pariah is the last one.
Oh, okay.
I believe. I'm not quite sure. I think with that's every race then covered.
Right. Cool. So, we'll wait to see what happens with that. Thank you very much for joining me today.
Not a problem. Thanks for having me.
And we'll see you next time.
Indeed.
Bye-bye.
Bye.